So we're going to follow these instructions right here. You should download Python and then download Visual Studio Code. You're welcome to use a different IDE if you want to. All the troubleshooting we're going to do in demonstrations, I'm going to be using VS Code. I've used quite a few others, so I won't necessarily be able to help you, but if you have a different one you would prefer, totally fine with me. Once we have VS Code installed, we want to install the extension. So I'm going to open up my VS Code. So here's my VS Code, and I've got a lot more things going on over on this side. You probably only have maybe 5 of these, but the one that we want is the extension. So if you hover over them, they'll tell you what each of these are. So if I click on this one right here, that's going to give me extensions, and I'm going to search Python. And it's going to be one of these ones towards the top. So right here, Python environment, make sure it's from Microsoft. If I click on that, I already have it installed, but there'll be an install button. So this just puts Python, the environment, on my VS Code. Okay, then we also want to go to the command palette, and then we want to select the Python interpreter that we're going to be able to use. So make sure you have Python installed. And then if I go to View, and then command palette, okay, and then I want to choose Python select interpreter. So I'm going to type that in. So View, command palette, and then just start typing in Python, and then a colon, and then select interpreter, this one right here. When I click on that, if I have Python installed correctly, you should see this right here. So yours might be a different number. Don't worry about that. As long as you have something that says Python, I'm going to click on that, and that's going to set up till this session we'll be doing my interpreter. VS Code's kind of interesting. It pulls it up kind of like a browser. So if we look, we have these tabs up here. I can close this. And then if I wanted to open and close this side panel, I can do that with this button. Okay, the next one that we want to get familiar with is up here. We have this Explorer. So I'm going to click on that Explorer right there. Okay, and I'm going to create a new folder. So I'm going to open up a folder, and you can save this anywhere that you want. I like to save things on my C drive, and then in a folder called dev, and then I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it CS 1400. Okay, and then I'm going to click on that and then say select folder. So now in Python, if I click on this Explorer, I can see I have this right here. So I'm inside the CS1400 folder. Okay, and I want to create a new folder. So if I go right here, I can create a new folder. All right, and we are working on this module 1, which is our percent in school. So I'm just going to create a new thing called module 1. Okay, and that's the name of the folder. Now if I open that, there's nothing inside here. So I'm going to create a file. Okay, so I'm going to click on this file right here, and I'm going to call this percent underscore in underscore school dot py. Notice that as soon as I change that, let me make it a little bit larger. As soon as I change that to a Y, look right here, and we'll see that the IDE now knows that this is a Python file. So that's 2 Pythons. That's the logo for Python. In case you wanted to make yours bigger, if you press the control button, so here I'm doing control minus, and here I'm doing control plus to make it a little bigger. Okay, and I'm going to press enter. All right, so this has opened up percent in school for me. I'm going to close this Copilot over here. All right, so percent in school right here. So I've got this folder, and then I have a file inside the folder. All right, and then I like to have as much real estate as possible, so I'm going to close that. If I click on that, it just closes the Explorer, and that opens up the Explorer. Okay, so we want to start typing in here. It's a good idea in the beginning of your code to kind of give some information about it. So I'm going to do 3 double quotes. And notice that when I type those double quotes, my cursor is right here, but I have 3 double quotes at the end. So to start a long multi-line comment, I'm going to use 3 quotes and then 3 quotes like this. Okay, and then let's just put some information in here. So I'm going to say programmer, and that's me, so you could put your name in here. All right, and maybe you want to put a description. Okay, and this is a program that will tell the user how long, well, let's change it to what percentage they have been in school. What percentage of their life. Okay, and then I might want to put other things in here, maybe other information, but this multi-line comment allows me to, the interpreter's not going to do anything with this. And so we're just going to leave it like that. Okay, then I'm going to give myself a couple spaces. Notice that these numbers kind of show up as I'm going along, and so that's kind of important to be able to follow. All right, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to print out. I'm going to say print, and then I'm going to use parentheses. Notice that I get my closing parentheses right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do 3 quotes again. Okay, and then a space, and then 3 quotes. All right, and then I'm going to move this down a few lines. And now if I go back to, so let's go back to our page. I'm going to copy this ASCII art. So just Control C to copy. Then I go back and I'm going to Control V to paste. Okay, so now I'm going to actually print this out to the console. So let's make sure everything's working. So if you've installed the Python interpreter and you selected the Python interpreter, you should have this little file right here. So this little play button that says Run Python File. If yours doesn't have this, you can reach out on Discord for this specific assignment and we can help troubleshoot and walk you through the problem. So when I hit this Run button, a terminal is going to open here at the bottom. And notice that right here, it is printing out that statement. Okay, so I'm getting my Weber statement right there. Okay, looks like syntax invalid escape character. So let's take a look at what that problem is. Oh, it's probably, yeah, these are showing as an escape character right here. So let's just ignore that warning for now. But we are printing out our Weber right there. Okay, next, we're going to follow these instructions right here. So we want to ask the user what is their name. We want to say, we want to concatenate. We want to tell them, hey, that's your name. What's your age? Okay, so let's start out with what is your name? And so we need to create a variable name, and I'm going to set it equal to the assignment operator equals. Then I'm going to use the keyword input. As I'm typing, you'll notice that this box becomes available. If I hit the tab key, that's going to autocomplete that. So that's helping me to type. So I'm going to ask, what is your name? Okay. Good practice is to be able to test our program. So let's see if we can get that information. So we run the file. Okay, and then it asks our name. All right. One thing that I don't necessarily like is notice there's not a space right there. So we probably want to do a space. Now, you can get running a whole bunch of terminals and run into some problems. So one piece of advice that I have for you is this trash can right here. This is just going to kill the terminal. So if there's something wacky happen with your program, just kill that terminal. All right, so let's give us a space here. So the next thing we want to know is the person's age. Okay, so we want to set that equal to, and we're going to say, what is your age? Notice how this is showing a little squiggly line. So I've got something wrong here. So this is a string. I need to put that in quotes. Okay, and I can do double quotes or single quotes. And then also I want to say this is an input, right? I'm getting that information in from an input. We go back to our example. Notice that here we're actually adding the person's name. So we have to do some concatenation in order to add that person's name. And so right here, I'm going to say name and then plus. Okay, so it's going to print the name. And then remember, when I use the plus symbol with concatenation, it doesn't have a space. So I'm going to have to put a space right here. Okay. The next thing that we know, or the next problem that we're going to encounter, is anytime I get an input, the return, it's going to return a string. So if we look right here, see this str? When I use an input, it always returns a string. So if a user gives me a value of 34 as an integer, right, the return that's going to come back, it's going to be this, the characters 3, 3, and 4. The computer, we won't be able to perform any mathematical calculations on that. And so what we need to do is we need to change the type of this output. So we want to come right here and we want to say this output type, which was string, let's change that to an integer. And then you'll notice too that a cool thing in VS Code, see how it highlights that block? If I click on that block, it shows this is the closing block. So sometimes if we don't have the right number of closing blocks, see how I got that error right there? And so I can come in here and make sure that I have that closing block. So we want everything that's inside here to change to be an integer. Okay, let's test that. So run it. And we're going to say Scott. And then it looks like we need to put a question mark and a space. If I put 45 right here, all right, no errors. Okay, so we don't know yet if we're going to see, we haven't done anything with these values, so let's work on that next. So we need a question mark here and a space. Okay, and then let's create a new variable. I'm going to say years, and then I'm going to do underscore, but you could do the camel case. So years in school, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to do an equals sign. And this is the same thing. This is going to be a string, so I want to return an integer. I need to get an input from the user. And I'm going to say how many years of school. Okay. And then let's make a calculation for percent in school. So this one, once again, I'm just trying the different ways to show you. This one I'm going to use camel case. So instead of the underscore, I'll use camel case. Okay. And we want to calculate. So in order to calculate that, we want to do years in school. And we're going to divide that by their age, right? So what percentage of their life have they been in school? So this then is age right here. And then that's going to give us a decimal. It'll be like 0.5, or if it was half your life in school. So let's multiply that by 100 so it becomes a percentage. Okay, and then the final thing we want to do here at the very beginning, we don't want to get a number like 49.37468, right? Let's actually round that out. So there's a keyword called round. We'll work a little more with that in the future, but let's round that out. Okay, so at this point right here, we've written quite a bit. We've written these two lines. So let's make sure we're really getting out what we want. So for now, I'm just going to print out percent in school. And once again, notice that as I'm typing that, see how I get that percent in school? I'm going to hit the tab and it's going to complete it. If I click on this too, I can see that this variable is the same. Okay, so let's save that. Control S can save. You can come up here also and hit the save. And you could also do this auto save. So that's a good idea if you're writing program for quite a bit. Okay, so percent in school. Let's run that. All right, so name, that looks good. What is your age? How many years of school? So I have a master's degree, so I did 12 years plus 4 years for a bachelor's degree and 2 years for a master's degree. So that's 18. And then I hit enter. So 40% of my life I've spent in school, so 40. All right, let's get that a little more meaning. We can even go back to the, so this is saying you have spent this many years in school. Okay, so let's add some additional information here. So let's say you have spent, okay. Now I'm going to do a double quote. And then here I'm going to use a different concatenation. Remember, we can use the comma. And the comma actually adds a space. And so this is just another way of doing concatenation. So up here we did the plus, and down here we did the comma. So you have spent that. Then we need another comma here. Percent of your life in school. Okay, that's probably looking good. Let's take a look at that. So run it. And name, age, number of years in school. You have spent 40% of your life in school. All right, that looks great. Okay. So for the assignment, so if you look right here, it says run the program, make sure it works. So you're going to take a screenshot of the output window. That's what you're going to upload right here is the screenshot. So if I go back to VS Code, on a Windows machine, I can use something called the snipping tool. So if you press the Windows key, and then I can type in snipping, and that'll pull up this tool. You can also do Command Windows key, Shift S. And then here I can copy this output. So I'm going to copy all of this. Okay. And then I want to save it. So this is the thing that came up, and I'm going to save this, and then I'll upload it. And then the other thing that you want to upload, so let me kill that. We're going to upload the program itself, so the Python file. So find where your Python file is. Then you're going to come back here to right here, and you're going to say choose, and then you're going to upload that Python file. Okay, reach out on Discord if you have any problems going through this. You're going to be doing some coding on your own with something similar to this, and hope everything goes well for you. Good luck.